As you've likely already heard, the next Conan Exiles update is coming on March 25th, 2025. If you haven't already seen the preview, my last video was about that very topic. I would recommend watching that before this one. However, today we're going to talk about something else that's been found in the new Devkit update that seems pretty interesting. So, let's get into it. This new discovery seems to be a variant or redesign of an existing dungeon. Firstly, to find this interesting new discovery, we'll firstly have to talk about the Devkit. As we've covered previously, the first hints of this coming update came from an update to Conan's Devkit on the 12th of March 2025. If you don't already know, the Devkit is basically what mod developers build their mods in, and it's updated to reflect the most recent state of the game. This sometimes adds content to the Devkit that can be seen before it's available in the live game, though not always in the normal context we'd experience it in. So, on March 14th, a user named Ragnar Random posted on the funcom forums with some information from this latest Devkit update. He'd been poking around and had found something called the Dark Dregs Dungeon. According to this post, it's a copy of the existing Dregs Dungeon at Skulker's End, but with a different boss, changes to the interior layout of the dungeon, and even some cinematics. The dungeon is apparently incredibly dark and requires a torch, with multiple cauldrons you can light with your torch, but also wind traps that will blow your torch out. It includes 2 new enemies, a dry zombie undead enemy, and a modified Dowel slug. There also appear to be some unique rewards tied to this too. There's some new abysmal themed weapons, your own version of the cauldrons in the dungeon, and a new armour set too. However, alongside all of these exciting things, Ragnar noted that the dungeon is perhaps a little different than most. It's apparently on something called the Event Dynamic Streaming Layer, which means it's only active when FLS, which I think is Funcom Live Services, turns it on. He also said that it can't be played as normal in the Devkit, but Ragnar managed to fiddle with the streaming layers to test it out. Additionally, he also says that though these things are in the game files, it seems like it's controlled by the event system, and thus it might be a new event to slide into the schedule alongside Headhunters, the Sacred Hunt, and so on. Ragnar says he has no idea when it will actually be playable, and the rewards are currently marked dev only and can't even be admin spawned in game. We'll touch more on that later. We should probably address the obvious point here. If you're like me, you probably think this sounds cool, but what happened to no new content? Well, Ragnar followed up on this post with some interesting information. The meshes and other elements of the dungeon were marked Age 3 Chapter 1, which would be the Age of Heroes Chapter 1, which leads him to believe this stuff was likely at least already mostly finished for the Age of Heroes and has just been polished up and pushed out. By the looks of it, I think I'd agree with that. Age of Heroes Chapter 1 was released way back in October 2024, and the content developed for it could have been worked on as far back as summer, or even further. If this dungeon was intended for the mid-season update in January, and just ended up waiting around almost complete, I think it kinda makes sense to finish it off and put it out. Now, as for when this Dark Dregs dungeon will be available, I'm unsure. I feel like if this was coming in the March 25th update, it would have at least already been teased. There's also the fact that Ragnar reports the rewards are marked dev only, and if this version of the Devkit is meant to match the live game, I would think the rewards would be admin spawnable like every other event reward, unless it's not intended to arrive in this coming update. That's my layman's way of thinking about it anyway. Someone with more knowledge on the Devkit and modding in general may be able to shed more light on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't intended for the March update. I think Meteor Mages are probably a great example of this. They were in the admin panel from the Age of War Chapter 2, but didn't even show up properly until Chapter 4, and who knows how long they were in the Devkit for. So, to summarise what's been discovered, the recent Conan Devkit update got a new version of the Dregs dungeon, the Dark Dregs, with a slightly different layout, new enemies, and new rewards. This dungeon appears to be plugged into the events system, so it might not replace the old Dregs dungeon, but might cycle in and out if it is indeed an event. It was likely developed quite a while ago, and there's no indication of when it will be added to the game, so I wouldn't just expect it to be there when the March update hits, and there's no real clear indication, again, of when it will actually release. Anyway, that will wrap us up for today. A fairly interesting leak from the new Devkit update courtesy of Ragnar Random posted on the Funcom forums. The next Conan Exiles update will be coming on March 25th, 2025. I've already covered the preview details of that patch in a video last week, so do check that out if you're unaware. I'll be covering this coming update and all of the Conan Exiles news alongside lore, reviews, builds and plenty more, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like as well, helps the channel out. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful, esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel yourself, check out the Patreon through the link in the description or join as a member here on YouTube by clicking join just below this video. Take care, and I'll see you soon.